ANC Spokesperson Mahlengi Bhengu-Motsiri says the party is confident that the budget will be passed on Wednesday. This comes despite a standoff between the ANC and its GNU partner, the DA, regarding the proposed VAT increase in the 2025-2026 budget. We delve into this now further with DA spokesperson Willie Aucamp, who joins us now on Teams. Mr. Aucamp, thank you so much for your time on the program. So there you have it. The ANC says the budget will be passed with or without the DA. What's your response?
The budget cannot be passed without the DA. That is the reality. You can take a small calculator, one of these cheap ones, and you can use that to count and see whether you can get to 50% within the GNU without the DA. It's just not possible. The ANC has got 39% of the seats in the National Assembly. And all the other small parties within the GNU, combined with that of the ANC, does not get to the number of 50%. It just does not. So the DA is still open for negotiations. As I understand it, there are conversations going on as we speak, but there has not been a deal that was reached. So unless something happened in the last literally five minutes, then it might have been the case, but I have been briefed about 5 minutes ago, and I was told that there is no deal currently. We are still negotiating about this budget.
Take us through those negotiations. I mean, the delaying of the tabling of the budget itself had already sent shockwaves across the country, Mr. Aucamp. And now we hear your party, the DA, is demanding a series of what it calls growth-enhancing reforms. What are those?
When the Democratic Alliance entered this government of national unity, we made it clear that in everything that we do, we will ask ourselves whether this will grow the economy and create jobs. Now, the budget that was firstly proposed by Minister Bonongwana, which he would have delivered on the 19th of February, had a 2% VAT increase in it. And there were not any growth measures in it. It's easy to say growth, but you've got to show how you're going to do that. And that budget lacked that. That budget wasn't proposed. Then on the 12th of March, we had another budget where the 0.5% VAT was in, and again, no real consequent growth measures. So the Democratic Alliance, being the second largest partner within the government of national unity, drafted a document, a working document, which we then presented to the ANC. That was presented to the ANC 14 days ago already. 2 days ago, the ANC came back to the DA and bluntly rejected all the proposals. I'm going to repeat that. They bluntly rejected all the DA's proposals and simply expected the DA to go along with their budget because we are a partner in that coalition. And we made it very clear that that is a coalition and we should see to it that it does not become a collision. Should not be two big elephant bulls running and bumping heads with each other. And that is what it is going to be if they expect us just to accept their budget. We cannot support a budget where we were ignored and where we did not have the opportunity to be listened to when it comes to the information in that specific budget. So 2 days ago, they rejected it, and we made it very clear that we will not support a budget that we did not form part of. The ANC also threatened and said that they will get people or parties from outside of the government of national unity to support the budget, parties like the EFF, etc. And we made it clear. If you are going to get parties outside of the government of national unity to support your budget, then you must please go and govern with those parties. We will not form part of a government of national unity where we did not support the budget. The budget is at the essence of what we are doing in a government. And if the ANC is going to sideline us and make use of other parties, then we challenge them to go and govern with those parties. But I don't think that they will manage to do that. The other parties made it clear to the ANC that they will not support their budget. So the ANC's only option is to now for once realize that they do not have a majority anymore. They are a 39% party. They must now come back to the table to negotiate with objectivity, with open minds, so that we as the DA and the ANC, as the two largest parties in this country, representing more than 60% collectively of the people of this country, so that we can together form a budget that will be a pro-growth, pro-economical transformation and pro-job creation budget. We need to do cost-cutting. South Africa does not have an income problem. We've got an expenditure problem. We've seen over many years how the previous ANC government has misspent this country's money. We've got enough money. We just got to make sure that it is applied correctly, that there are cost-cutting measures across the board in all areas so that we can really come to a point where the money is going towards the people of this country.
I want us to backtrack a bit. You touched on that letter, and I know that there's been a back and forth on that front around to whom the letter was actually addressed to, because you hear reports as well that the DA addressed this letter to just the president as the head of the executive and not the ANC itself. To whom was this letter addressed to, Mr. Aucamp? And also I want us to delve into the nitty-gritties of what was called some of the DA's conditions that in that particular letter. But let's get to that first on clarity on to whom the letter was addressed to.
I've got the letter in front of me, but it is the contents of the letter, so I can't see to whom it was addressed, but I think that is semantics, whether it's addressed to the president in his capacity as the president of this country, the leader of cabinet, or whether it was to him as the leader of the ANC within the GNU. I think that is irrelevant. It's about the proposals. So the negotiations within this government of national unity are definitely between the DA as a party on the one hand and the ANC as a party on the other hand, because this government of national unity consists of various parties. So these proposals were put to the ANC, and as I said, it was with them for 12 days, and they came back in a 10-minute meeting and said, we would not support your proposals. You must just support our budget. And we've got news for them. There's absolutely no way in which we will do that. I think that was really a slap in the face of the DA. You just expect us to be a rubber stamp for the ANC's decisions. It's not going to run. We're not going to be part of carrying on with the neglect and bad financial decisions that the ANC made for 30 years. We're not going to enable them to do that further. We are here to rescue South Africa, and the information that we've put on the table, the measures that we can take to financially turn around this country are sound. They have been proven. Where the DA governed in the Western Cape, go and have a look at the wasteful expenditure, compare that to the rest of the country, go and have a look at the amount of money that is successfully being spent in the rural and poor areas. You cannot even compare that with the rest of the country. So the Democratic Alliance has got a responsibility to the people of South Africa to ensure that whilst we are part of this government of national unity, we will work towards the benefit of everybody in this country. And I think it is a big mistake from the ANC to think they could sideline us. The ANC know that we as the DA know how to govern, and they must now put their pride in their pockets and allow us to co-govern with them to the benefit of the people. They don't care if South Africa is in the slumps, as long as it is ANC slumps, and that is not what it should be. We should not play party politics. We should now make decisions in the best interest of each and every South African out there.
But that's what it trickles down to, and what it seems like from most of us that are also watching this on the sidelines. And that question I actually asked with regards to whom the letter was addressed to. I was just trying to gauge in terms of whom then would be invited to the discussion table. But then we move forward now, Mr. Aucamp. Now, the ANC's NEC member, Pakstow, also says the party is being disingenuous. And when I say the party, I mean the DA, in making what he called political demands, and one of them being the scrapping of the Bella Act, the NHI, and the Expropriation Act, which has also prompted them to say your party moves one step forward and two steps backwards. Let's hear from you and in terms of what are some of those demands that the party has made, and let's just hear moving forward, because part of us having this conversation is that you're also able to give us perspective and give viewers perspective in terms of how would the DA ideally want to move forward with this.
I don't want to call Minister Barstow a liar, but I can tell you now that he is going about the truth very, very liberally. The Democratic Alliance in this 13-page document, which I've got open in front of me, never once mentioned Bella. With regards to Bella, the Democratic Alliance has got our minister from the DA, Sibiwe Kwaube, who is the Minister of Education, and she is the person now responsible to draft the norm, standards and regulations. So there's absolutely no need to have that included in here. The NHI as well is mentioned, but we must remember that in the medium-term budget policy framework and the statement that was out there, there was no inclusion of the NHI in that. So it was not necessary in the beginning for the DA to include the NHI in any of these because it would not have been there over the medium term. Then the ANC came, and without consultation with us, again, sidelining their partners, they went and they included the NHI in the medium-term budget policy statement. So at that point, the Democratic Alliance had to stand up and we had to include this in what we believe should be handled in order to get to a pro-growth agenda for this country. The national health insurance is a big roadblock on the route for economical transformation. It's going to bankrupt this country, and the President, as well as Minister Motsoaledi, as well as Minister Godongwana, knows exactly that there are no money. We have asked them on many occasions, where's the money for NHI coming from, and they could never answer us. So go out there and ask them that question. So the moment that they then brought in, through a backdoor, the NHI, we had to handle that. Then the Expropriation Act. You are now mentioning three items, one of which is definitely not in there, the Bella Act, the NHI, which I've now handled, and then the Expropriation Act. The Expropriation Act is standing slap bang in the middle of economical growth in this country. If you are a foreigner or even a South African and you want to invest in this country and you want to maybe build a factory that will help to grow the economy, that will increase jobs, will you come and build that factory here with your money on risk, knowing that government will be able to take away that property without compensating you? You will not. So that is standing in the middle of the road against economical growth. What the DA put on the table, and I'm going to read that to you. Let me read in this document what we say about the Expropriation Act. We're not saying it should be scrapped. We're saying the Expropriation Act must be amended to be aligned with processes and sequencing to ensure that the appropriate court approves compensation before a notice of appropriation has been issued. So all that we ask for is that a court must be the final decision maker on the value of land. We go further and we say that the references to no compensation must be replaced with the constitutional formulation that says just and equitable. President Ramaphosa was part and parcel of the drafting of our Constitution. And in his wise wisdom at that stage, they decided that the words just and equitable compensation must be in there. And that is what we as the DA are asking. We are asking, keep to the original wording of this. Why now change it? So let the court decide. And even if a court decides, and it's got to decide on just and equitable, it might even be that that court decides that just and equitable is no. But then it's the court that decided it, not a government official on either national, provincial, or local government level. It must be the court. So we're not asking for the scrapping of the Expropriation Act. We are asking for changes that is just and that are in line with the Constitution. But apart from these three items that everybody is concentrating on, we've put up a big 13-page document with a lot of proposals that we believe can help this country. To give you an example, the World Bank offered to the Deputy Minister to undertake a full regulatory review and that we ask Cabinet to accept that by the 1st of June. The World Bank can provide a global perspective and it is able to move fast with real expertise at its disposal. Doing the review in-house runs the risk of people with vested interest applying those to the analysis. Let's get objective people out there. With regards to the National Rail Policy, which has been approved by Cabinet in March 2022 already, a passenger rail devolution strategy must be developed and it must be approved by the end of this year. Tariffs can be eliminated on goods that are not manufactured in South Africa. These tariffs negatively affect all importing businesses. So I can carry on and carry on.
Sure.
So to nitpick out of a 13-page document and all the time come back to the Expropriation Act is not what is on. Go and read the whole document, and that is what we require from the ANC. We are not here to score political points, so should the ANC also not be here. We need to pass a proper budget.
Okay, Mr. Aucamp, I'm going to ask you to please park it there because we must also get reaction from the other front. Because as I'm going to ask you now to stay on the line because colleague Kenny Maphanga is also on standby in Boksburg where the ANC NEC is currently underway as ANC President Cyril Ramaphosa made his way into day 3 of the party's NEC meeting in Boksburg. Now, the party president expressed confidence that the budget will make it over the line into the week in Parliament. Now, this comes after the NEC was able to conclude deliberations on the matter yesterday. Now, the party, however, could not be drawn into how it concluded this budget impasse that it has been been hanging over its head for the weeks after the GNU partner, the DA, charged it would not support the budget in its current form.
The president said so. Take his word for it. But I'm not commenting on the budget any further. I think that matter was ventilated thoroughly yesterday. But as I said, and as SG said, absolutely confident that the budget will be passed on Wednesday.
Let's bring in SABC News reporter now, Kenny Maphanga, who's on the story and joins us live. So, Kenny, let's hear from you on that side. Why is the president so confident that the budget will be passed on Wednesday?
Good afternoon to you, Mxolisi, and to the viewers at home. Well, despite what the DA is charging in this previous interview to the agenda, it appears that the ANC is not only going to conclude the NEC meeting in 3 days, but however, it's all cheers this morning with the president affirming that they were able to deliberate last night and conclude on this budget impasse, meaning that they expect, or rather are confident, that when they head to Parliament next week, that budget will be passed. The only question that still hangs in the air that they are being mum about is how they're going to do this. We don't know if they're holding on firmly to that 0.5% VAT increase. Based on the briefings that we've gotten from the NEC, that appears to be the case because the ANC has charged that you cannot negotiate over a budget using political demands. Remember, the DA has been trying to leverage that particular VAT increase using transformation laws, and we know that for the ANC it's a bit more of a complicated dilemma because you're asking the ANC to root out those transformative laws in exchange for the 0.5% VAT increase. But now that that issue has been packed away, Mxolisi, and we'll see next week as to how it will unfold, with the ANC stating that they're confident it will go through, whether they've reached some form of a compromise with the DA or if they've had to turn to the opposition to make sure that this budget gets over the line. All of that will be revealed next week when they head to Parliament. But what we are heading to now is the briefing at 12 which is on international relations. Of course, you've seen that in the geopolitical space, that the environment has changed quite significantly. And we know that towards South Africa will not be spared in this. We know that disinformation has played a role with respect to the ANC fingering organizations such as lobby group AfriForum by trying to create a campaign that there was an attack on a white minority in South Africa. But we know in the ANC's negotiations with the US over these strained relations that it goes beyond the issues of these transformative laws such as the Expropriation Act and the Afrikaner community. And this possibly is just a tool that the US is using not to further engage with South Africa on these very sensitive matters. Now we're going to elaborate further with the ANC national spokesperson around some of the issues that could have possibly come up in the NEC. Now, we know South Africa as a third world nation has played a critical role in the Israel-Palestine conflict. I'm wondering if there were discussions to withdraw that ICJ case, and if it was considered, how that looks like, the optics of the whole globe seeing a nation such as ours taking on Western hegemony, and if it is on the cards to take off that ICJ case in order to sever those, or rather heal or restore those US-SA relations that we know are at a very rough stage right now, with the other party seemingly refusing to engage in good faith with South Africa on this conflict.
Absolutely no thought whatsoever, no idea of that kind being punted, because our relationship with the struggle for self-determination by the Palestinian people is a principled struggle. It's a principled act of solidarity. And so that is not even an item for discussion. In fact, what is an item for discussion is how do we escalate efforts, bring more allies to really work hard to ensure the liberation of the Palestinian people. And this does not mean a hatred towards Israeli, but it is about doing that which we fought for ourselves in order to attain democracy in South Africa. So that conversation did not arise. I may just indicate that the decision by our government to go to the International Court of Justice was also a well thought through action. And of course we've got to have to see that process through, because it's also again a principled stance that South Africa took.
Now, we know the geopolitical space is not an easy terrain to manage, with the Trump administration's change in policy, change in attitude towards South Africa, and the refusal to engage with South Africa on some of these concerns and issues that they may have with the alleged or proposed human rights abuses that have been campaigned and as part of the disinformation campaign by some of those lobby groups. We know that it's really not about land reform and the Afrikaner community. What is the NEC identifying as the real cause behind this sudden and very quick shift between the US and SA's relations?
In fact, the answer can be found in one of the executive orders issued by the Trump administration with reference to the fact that there's genocide in South Africa, according to the disinformation campaign that is being led by AfriForum and Solidarity. If you look at that, if you look at one of those executive orders, you will find a clause there that speaks to the fact that our position on the Israeli and Palestinian question. So the answer is right there. It's not even a case of perceiving that. And we always knew, particularly as the African National Congress, that our principled stance on this matter was going to be met with a lot of fight back, and perhaps this is one of the markings of that kind of fight back. But it's important to also indicate that we are taking a principled view at this meeting to exercise and utilize what we are strong at, which is using diplomacy, particularly quiet diplomacy, to resolve issues pertaining to the posture of the United States towards South Africa. We are not going to be doing toe-to-toe. It's not in our nature. Our responsibility is to ensure that we have mature conversations with our colleagues in the United States administration using the channels in government.
I know a delegation went recently. Are the doors still shut tight there, or are you making some progress with trying to engage with the Trump administration?
We are not at the stage, and this will obviously be articulated in the press briefing that's just about to start. We are not doing so. The president provided a sterling political overview of the state of things in the geopolitical environment, and the NEC agreed with a number of his proposals, and one of which is to allow, for example, to the question that says, are you going to be replacing Ibrahim Rasool, about one of those, and that we have taken a view that not at this point. That conversation will run its course, and should also enable government to make a thorough assessment of what lies behind the kind of posture that we've been seeing, just besides the Palestinian question.
And I know former President Bhengu has spoken on the conduct of the former ambassador to the U.S. Has the NEC deliberated on whether that was appropriate, if it could have been handled differently under the circumstances that we face?
We generally avoid commenting on utterances by our elders. It's a part of the culture in the ANC. Former President Mbeki is a scholar in his own right. He's our elder. He's a statesman. And all of those things, such that the ANC, whenever he opines, we note his comments, and when he invites us to comment on his comments, we do so. We always oblige. But that's as far as it goes.
All right, thank you very much. That was ANC National Spokesperson Mahlengi Bhengu-Motsiri speaking to us ahead of that briefing on international relations. I'm just going to step out of frame quickly to give you those visuals of the NEC that is expected to close. I see there in the corner we do have the SG Fikile Mbalula alongside Nongceba Mhlawuli and Zizi Kodwa there. I also see Mzwandile Masina. Those are some of the NEC members making their way out as they prepare for that 12 o'clock briefing. As Mahlengi Bhengu-Motsiri has stated, they were able to deliberate quite effectively last night and conclude the business of the day, and we expect that the NEC will wrap up in the afternoon today following that 12 o'clock briefing, and we can expect to have some answers on the US-SA strained relations, and hopefully then the ANC could provide a way forward as to how it's going to navigate this challenging strain in a changing geopolitical space. Over to you in studio.
Great, Kenny. And of course, there are also great takeaways from that conversation you just had now with the ANC spokesperson on those strained relations with the US of A, where she says the party had taken the decision not to immediately replace the outgoing ambassador, Ibrahim Rasool. We'll park it there with Kenny for now. And I know Mr. Aucamp for the DA is still on standby to give us some of his reflections from that. But also just a final question, Mr. Aucamp. So what happens now? What happens next if the ANC gets other parties to perhaps back it on this budget? Does this mean that the DA will be breaking away from the GNU?
You do, as I said in the beginning of my conversation, you can really use one of these cheap calculators. And if the ANC are going to add up all their numbers, they will not be able to get to 50%. That's the reality. And in Parliament, you need 201 people to support your budget. The ANC will not be able to get there without the support of the DA. If they are maybe going to try and see whether MK or the EFF would support their budget, they might be able to get over that 50% threshold, although both the MK and the EFF has already publicly said that they will not support this. So, but let's say that happens. if government or if the ANC wants to get a budget approved by certain parties, they must be willing to govern with those parties. You cannot expect the DA, or for that matter, any party that wanted to do proposals and made proposals on this budget, to just be ignored and then expect from them to fall in line once you've agreed a budget from your side, being the ANC, with other parties outside of this GNU. So President Ramaphosa and everybody in the ANC, we urge you to listen to the Democratic Alliance. We've got to make this government of national unity work. The alternative is a doomsday coalition. Once the MK or the EFF has got their hands in this government, it will have dire consequences. The market value that we will lose in South Africa within one day will be more than what we try to gain by increased VAT, even with 4%, should that be the case. It will be diminished by a market share that will fall within one day. So we urge the ANC, we urge President Ramaphosa and Minister Godongwana, have a look again at the sound proposals that the DA has put on the table. Those are proposals that really will turn this country around, that will assist us in having economical growth. We are standing at 1.6% economical growth. We've got to get to a point where we've got 3%, 4%, 5% economical growth. Our debt to GDP ratio is 76%. Our debt service cost is 21%. It means that 21 rand out of every 100 rand that we get in is paid towards interest rates and paid towards bad loans that we've managed to do over the past. You cannot tax or loan a country into prosperity. The plans that the DA has put on the table is clear, where we can cut costs, where we can direct money to the correct items so that we can deliver proper service delivery to the people of South Africa, so that we can assist in getting our ratings in the international markets up, so that we can have more favorable payback arrangements when it comes to our borrowing that we've got. So we urge them to do this. The Democratic Alliance, in summing this up, will not, I repeat, we will not form part of a government of national unity if we were not involved and if we did not approve of that budget. So for the ANC to not speak to us would not be wise. It would put this GNU and this government at risk, and we would urge them to really go back. They are negotiating at this stage. We just would like everybody, whether it's the DA, whether it's the ANC, we would like everybody to really negotiate in good faith. It's one thing to sit around the table and play with your hair. It's another thing to sit around the table and really try to make things work. And that we hope that that is the latter, that everybody that's sitting around the table negotiating about this understands the seriousness and understands the consequences if the ANC is going to make use of parties outside of this GNU, because the Democratic Alliance will not support that.
Okay, for the Democratic Alliance, that's Willie Aucamp, and he's the spokesperson for the party. Thanks very much indeed for your time on the program. And we did also reach out to the EFF to get their voice added onto this. And they did say and responded to our team this morning, not so long ago actually, saying, hi, we're not available for an interview. Now, the EFF has not reached any agreement with the ANC to pass the budget in its current form. It concludes perhaps they can expect support from the DA or the MK party. And that was a message that was sent shortly to our production team right here on the agenda.